Boxing King Media in association with Boxroof. Delighted to have with me Eddie Hearn. Eddie, what number interview is this?
About 462, but don't worry about it. Haven't got anywhere to go anyway, apparently. So, good to see you.
Ed, let's go back Saturday night. Don't know what you were doing. Most people probably were in bed at 1 a.m. in the morning. You get the news, you get the email. What's your immediate reaction?
I was on the East Coast time, so it was a bit earlier for me, but most people were asleep. Honestly, like weirdly, like emotionless, numb, you know? Not, just fuck me. You are joking. But then it's like, don't forget, we've been in this situation, not really the Conor Benn situation, but more the Jarrell Miller situation with Anthony Joshua. So everything falls apart, the world's spinning real fast, but it's just stay calm. And most importantly, speak to AJ. I didn't want to contact AJ because it was early hours of the morning and I didn't want him to get the message and not sleep. So I thought, speak to him in the morning, spoke to Freddie Cunningham straight away. They're all on the email anyway. And I just needed his reaction. And I wasn't sure what the reaction would be. Maybe it was, fuck it, like, no, leave it. Like, let's just break camp and then come back in October, November. But it was like, no, I want to fight. Get me a fight. I'm buzzing. Like, I need to fight. And once he said that, we had to go to work. And then it's a case of going through the 30-odd applicants, you know, the ones that are real, the ones that are doing it for clout, the ones that you can do a deal with in 24 hours and won't let you down. And the ones that want to win. And the ones that are in shape. Do you know what I mean? Like, not someone who's just literally not even been training, will just take the fight for money. So I think we got a good opponent and we got a great card on Saturday.
You've always had a great relationship with Dillian. Obviously, he's not been contracted to you. You made a call to AJ, but did you also call Dillian as well?
I spoke to his management team. They were on the email as well. And, you know, look, it shocked everybody, in all honesty. I mean, he's got a huge fight on his hands. But it is a shock. It was a shock. It is a shock. Everybody knew the testing process for this fight. Everyone knew the magnitude of the fight. And it doesn't really make sense, but sometimes nothing does. So over to him to fight his corner.
Have you checked in on him? Obviously, this could be a career ending. He's got to go through that process, but he's not young, like, for example, Conor Benn's.
The problem is, and I was saying to some of the media earlier, there's actually no clear process to go through. You know, VADA is a reporting agency, if you like. So they report the results. They don't deal with the disciplinary matters. So I don't actually know the process that DILLIAN Whyte has to go through now. But he has to go through one. Because as we've seen with Conor Benn, until you go through that process, people just won't stop. So I don't know what he's going to do, you know, and if we can help him in any way, support him. You know, I'd like to believe him, certainly. But the results are the results, and like Conor had to, he's got to go through this horrible process now, and it is horrible. I mean, I went through it in a small way, and it's very difficult.
The fact that he's not a British boxing board licence holder, does that make it more complicated?
Yes, because he's licensed by Portugal, I believe. What are they going to do? Do they even have a disciplinary committee for this kind of thing? So, you know, I don't know if the board, you know, you'd guess the board would do the same as what they did with the Conor Benn situation, which was they would want to have a hearing, but I don't know.
One of the things that he put in his statement was that he was, I'm paraphrasing here, he was shocked to learn that he was cancelled from the fight. Who was notified? Obviously he wasn't directly from yourself.
No, he knew we were pulling the fight, but I think what he meant by that was that he was shocked to hear that we were pulling the fight. But, you know, contractually, because it wasn't a co-promotion, we didn't have anybody that we had to run it by or get their opinion on. It was really down to AJ. Obviously, we learnt a lot from the Conor Benn situation. We now know the board's position regarding this. And I think if we would have said to Robert Smith, will you sanction this fight, which we wouldn't have given the circumstances, he would have said no. Whereas he didn't do that before because they didn't know in the Conor Benn situation. And it was 7 weeks out and there was chances of appeal and all kinds of things as well. But with 1 week out, this was very simple, really. We can't proceed. And I felt bad for Dillian, but, you know, it's not a case of giving them a chance to clear their name. It's Saturday and the fight's next week, you know, and unfortunately we couldn't proceed.
What was the difference between this fight and Ben-Eubank that allowed you to cancel it immediately?
Couple of things, as I mentioned before. Number one is every test result, every substance is very different. And more importantly, the Ben-Eubank fight was a co-promotion. And there was no clear instruction from the British Boxing Board of Control about what they will do, what we should do. And obviously when we spoke to our co-promoters, the fighter, after taking medical advice, was happy to proceed with the fight because of the levels and the testing around it, subject to what the British Boxing Board of Control advised us to do. That advice didn't come. There's no point going over it. But also, we made mistakes. Like, this was the first time we've dealt with it. This time, we acted swiftly. I hope people are happy. We still pissed people off, like DILLIAN Whyte, but we can't please everybody, you know. But with 1 week to go, having looked at the test, this was a sole promotion. So we have the right. AJ has the right to terminate on a positive VADA test. And when he wanted to, obviously, because of what he saw, there was no doubt to move forward. But certainly, you know, I can't dispute that we learned a lot during that Conor Benn process, and I think we acted in the right way.
Was deja vu going through your head? Obviously, Anthony Joshua's been through this before, so with Big Baby Miller. You're now all of a sudden rushing to find an opponent. Did that kind of go through your head? And obviously, with the Big Baby, you had a little bit more time to find an opponent.
Yeah, 3 weeks, but more this time around, like the similarities between not just the late replacement and the failed drugs test, but Deontay Wilder. Like, when we boxed Andy Ruiz, the only thing people were talking about is, are you going to fight Wilder next? And now I'm getting the same questions, and it's like, bloody hell, this is too trippy. So just stay focused on Saturday. Yes, Saudis are flying over at the weekend. They want to close the deal for Deontay Wilder if he wins. That's 100% the fight we're taking. But let's just win on Saturday, you know?
The process of elimination, how did you end up with Hellenius?
I wanted someone that was ready. I wanted someone that wasn't going to say, oh, well, you know, I'll come in at a week's notice and et cetera, et cetera. Hellenius, actually, his lawyer messaged me when they were on the way to the arena to fight on Saturday, saying if we win on tonight, we want the fight. He knocked the guy out in 3 rounds, messaged me after. And again, the importance of moving forward quickly with people you trust. I know Hellenius, I know his team, I know he's going to come to fight, not mess us around. And he got the call.
Derek Chisora made some comments up there, some passionate comments about fighters should get 10-year ban. Eddie, you were on TalkSport yesterday with Simon. He made his thoughts clear to you as well. But this is a major problem in boxing. There's no clarity. People don't know what's right, what's wrong. We know it happens in sport and people get away with it. But how do we how does this get solved?
That's the problem, is the clarity. Like, there's no clear system as to what happens, really. And it's very difficult. But, I think there needs to be more of a deterrent. I mean, certainly the public trial is a huge deterrent, in my opinion. And Conor went through that, and Dillian's going to have to go through it now again. But also, what is the process? Do you know what I mean? It's not fail a test and this happens. It's like, well, you have to go here, then there's a hearing, and it can last a year, and like that, you know. So I think that's a major problem. I don't think there's enough testing. I think testing is unbelievably expensive. We always employ the additional layer of testing for big fights. It costs £30,000 per fight. So this card's got 10 fights. If you want to test everybody like that, it's 300 grand for one night. We're doing 40 shows a year, right? It's 12 million a year on testing. But I've been thinking recently about, you know, perhaps an idea that Matchroom introduce a random testing pool for their contracted fighters, like the UFC do with USADA. So it's like, if you want to be a Matchroom fighter, you have, like the WBC, you will be subject to random testing from VADA. The other issue I will say is that fighters, like when you go to the Conor Benn situation, every fighter who trains with Conor Benn, who knows him inside out, is 1,000,000% sure that he's innocent, right? There is a worry from fighters that if people are failing tests with people they know are innocent, you know, is contamination a thing? What supplements are people taking? Strict liability, which Simon went on about, is still your responsibility, but people are worried as well at the same time. And now you have DILLIAN Whyte saying, absolutely not, I've never taken anything in my... So you've got to go, but if he's telling the truth, it ruins your career, a positive test. And I still think that people in this world with food and the way food's processed, and, you know, you need to at least have your case heard. But that's another problem of where, who buy, who's willing to step up and say, we govern the sport in that respect.
to the Saudi delegation here on Saturday. The fight date touted for Joshua Wilder was December, I believe, 26th, Boxing Day. Why has it been pushed forward? And are you confident that that fight is
I don't
next?
think December 26th was the right date, but the date we've been given is, I think, middle of January, and ready to fight. You know, it doesn't matter if it's February, but we're ready, subject to victory on Saturday, to move forward and hopefully fight Deontay Wilder.
I was just scrolling through Twitter throughout the press conference and saw some. Sorry, I mean X. My apologies. There's some rumours floating around that the board have already appealed this Conor Ben decision. Have you heard anything?
No, not heard that. Disappointing if they have, but you know, if they do, we have to go through that process.
You ultimately have to wait past that 21 appeal date if they haven't appealed before you can plan Conor Ben.
We want to move forward and get Conor Ben a licence with the British Boxing Board of Control, but obviously subject to that appeal.
Haney Proga going at it on Twitter. What is the latest with that?
Yeah, Regis has signed. We're going through some small contractual bits with Devin Haney. We're just trying to marry up the broadcast dates with the right venue, but I'm confident that fight will get signed as early as by the weekend.
Eddie, thank you for speaking to Boxing King Media.